Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to today's webinar. Um, I'd like to introduce, we've got Amir Rosenberg, Director of Product Management at Perfecto, Stephen Dolan, Product Manager at Accenture, and Sankeet Wadukar at British Telecom. Thank you again for joining us today, everyone. Can we hear you? Can everyone, Amir, Stephen?
Yep, this is Stephen here.
Great,
You can hear me.
thanks for joining. So before we get started, I am going to go over some housekeeping. So to everyone out there, please submit your questions while we're going through this webinar. We will go over them at the end of the webinar. We have a live poll during the webinar. We'll get that started in 1 second, and then later on we'll have a second poll. And just so you know, in case anyone has to leave early, we will be sending you the recording and slides. And we'd really appreciate it if you could also complete the end of webinar survey to know how we did, how we can improve for the next one. All right, so before I pass it off to you, Stephen, I am going to open up a poll. All right, can everyone see our poll? Are you testing video services? We're already getting some answers in here. Give it about 20 more seconds so everyone can answer. All right, I'm closing the poll. All right, so results. Most of you answered somewhat, mostly manually. A lot of you not today. Stephen, what do you think of this?
I think it's probably along the lines of what I would have expected. There's a lot of manual testing going on in video at the moment. It's probably actually, if anything, as an aggregate, there's a higher number of people certainly responding to this poll testing video services than maybe I would have expected. Overall, I would say it's positive because we've got 47% of people who are currently doing it manually that hopefully will consider doing it in a more automated way in the future.
Great. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Super. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the first slide there. So welcome everybody to this webinar. My name is Stephen Dolan. I work for Accenture in the Accenture digital video business. We're focused on everybody who's involved in delivering digital video services to customers, and we have products in that area around testing, and that's the area that I have a particular responsibility for. So in the webinar today, we would like to talk about the new video experiences that a lot of us in our personal lives have probably already come in contact with, and how that's changed the industry in general. We're then going to talk a bit about how we actually ensure that the quality of video being delivered by those apps is something that you can test as part of your ongoing day job. Then we'll go to a customer who has responsibility for actually delivering these video apps. That's British Telecom, BT in the UK. With somebody from BT talking about their testing. And then finally, we'll do a quick demo of the technology that we are presenting here today that can be used for automating video testing. So to start off with, we're going to go to Amir from Perfecto Mobile, and Amir is going to give us his take on the new digital app frontier. Amir? Amir, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
yep,
perfect.
We can hear you.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so
Off you
much,
go, Amir.
Stephen. Yep. Thank you so much, Stephen. I'm very excited to be this morning afternoon with Kedar and Simkat and from BT and Stephen. This is a great new initiative and frontier for Perfecto and for everybody. And it's really great to be joined in this exciting area with both a co-vendor as well as an actual customer who's facing these challenges and needs to address them. Austin, if you can proceed to the next slide, please. So, from Perfecto's perspective, we're an application quality vendor in the cloud, and we get to see a lot of applications, and more importantly, we get to see how applications evolve into providing new frontiers of digital engagements with different customers. And those engagements have recently, in the past, added new rich media features. Some of those features are audio-based. You've probably seen just recently a very nice example in Google I/O, how you can order food using Google Assistant and so forth. These things are being more common, but very, very interesting, and like Stephen said, involved in our day-to-day life is the addition of video experiences to our, application experiences. And so, whether we're interacting with one another over voice and video telephony and collaboration services for those people who are remote and talking to one another, live broadcast of real-time events. In retail, we're seeing significant proliferation of both product promotions, product reviews used by the audience and used in general by the vendor to promote their products, or also, to guide the user. There's product guides out there and there's troubleshooting guides using video that you can use over your phone as you're trying to assemble that piece of furniture. And lastly, and very commonly and widely adopted, is the adoption of live streaming, whether it's the likes of Hulu, Netflix, HBO, and etc., or live sports events, which are very common and so forth. And so, from whether you're in retail or whether you're in financial services or you're in the media business, this opens new business opportunities, new ways to interact with your end user, and new ways to also engage your end users in different channels, whether you own them directly or whether you're going to Facebook and the likes, all kinds of social channels on multiple different screens. So both on the business level as well as on the engagement level, these are new opportunities that are presented to the space. Next, please. The benefit of those opportunities that are now presented via technology is that what we're seeing is that when people are looking at their phones, they're typically very focused, especially when you're talking about rich media experiences. And so, when you're looking at the video, you're probably usually static. You're not walking and you're not, moving or doing something else. For the most part, you're focused on that basketball or soccer game, or whether it's anything else. You're focused on that phone, on video. So there's very deep implication in terms of the ability to provide all kinds of offering, or if you're trying to provide guidance how to use the product, you can really gain the undivided attention of the end user. And the results of that are actually really interesting in the retail space. As you can see here, there's many examples where if you capture the right attention of the user in the right time with quality content, you can actually impact significantly your ability to convert with that end user using video experiences. Next slide, please. However, with everything that's focused and highly targeted, there's a price to it. The user expectations for video are very, very high. Essentially, they expect video to work on any device, and they expect the quality of the video to be great. And I can share with you that I was on a flight just recently and I was trying to watch a video to kill some time. And the video performance, and frankly, as a user, I don't care if it's the backend server or it's the Wi-Fi on the plane or whatever it might be, the video service was horrendous. And I was deeply disappointed and frankly irritated by the quality of the video that was provided. And so with that undivided attention of the end user could come, Austin, if you can click on the next piece, could come significant cost with disappointment of the end user. And this comes in two ways that we see it typically. For example, in retail, as you can see here, 62% of consumers would tie a bad connotation, a negative connotation to a brand based on the video experience that they provide. That brand may have nothing to do with the video streaming technology, but the fact that the video itself is not of high quality may impact the buying decisions. And from a technology creation, from a development standpoint, as you know, in general, the later I find issues with video delivery, as in general bugs, the more expensive they are. And so if I'm able to know earlier that there are issues with my video delivery chain, and I can prevent those from going into production, I may save a lot of money. Next slide, please. The unfortunate news, of course, is that with this new, relatively new offering of video services inside applications, the application architecture has significantly become more and more complex. There are more and more vendors in the ecosystem being able to provide content, deliver content all around the world in real time. Usually when you're talking about live video events, it has to be built for the masses to look at them at the same time. And then being able to deliver on all of these screen sizes, device manufacturers, operating system versions, and so on and so forth. There are so many combinations. And once again, for the users, they don't care. It has to work on all of these combinations. Next slide, please. And give it another click, please. And so from a vendor of these experiences inside your application, what we're seeing is that most people are very worried. And the reason they're worried is because their ideal scenario is that they push new content and new offering in whatever development cycle they have. They might be working waterfall or they might be working agile. It doesn't matter whether you're releasing an application every 3 weeks or you're releasing an application every quarter. There are new offerings all the time, and especially when we're talking about video, you're promoting new products, etc. This market is extremely dynamic, and you need to be extremely competitive. And that's why when you come to plan your development efforts, you'd like to spend all of your time into new innovation, new functionality. I want to talk about my new product. I want to talk about my new features, just like I'm doing now. But what happens in reality, if I don't have a good quality solution to make sure that the video is delivered to the end point from a user experience perspective at high quality, what happens is that I get bad feedback from production or very latent bad feedback, and I spend more and more time debugging those issues and spending more and more time on debugging versus new innovation. Next slide, please. And so what I wanted to do is provide 3 recommendations. How can you progress with including video experiences in your overall application quality efforts, such that you prevent bad experiences from going into production, and you can be more efficient with your cycle. So the first thing, together with Accenture, is to have a lab in the cloud. And the lab in the cloud, to do this quality testing, has to be capable of providing the experiences that reflect the devices users would be using. It could be a browser, it could be a mobile device, it could be some other different devices. But these devices and operating systems need to be available for testing in the cloud such that they are available all the time, such that you can continuously test these video experiences on real devices and so on. And you can have very quick feedback, you know, to address issues. The next level is you want these devices and browsers to imitate real user conditions. What the reality, especially in video, is that it's very sensitive to the user conditions that real users would experience. And so whether it's network degradation, whether it's applications running in the background consuming CPU on the device, you want the lab in the cloud to reflect and be able to imitate those conditions. And lastly, you want scalable reporting such that, you know, if you conduct multiple different test cases every night, many of them, now you need a strong, solid reporting suite that would allow you very quickly to identify trends across many failures, and then dive into the specific root cause. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the next best practice that we recommend is that the lab in the cloud needs to fit your process. In other words, those devices, those browsers need to have components inside your development environment, whether you're using Eclipse or you're using some other environment to create the application and embed video in it, it has to be in there. And the entire process needs to fit into your development process. And we're talking from the moment where you create new code, some test cases need to fire and give you some indication of the quality of the video at all times. You should have significant amount of automation, and this is very important. You know, referring back to the poll that we started with, 47% of people said video is important, but I don't have automation. The reality of the business is what's not automated is likely not going to be tested. That's the reality of the situation. So what we're presenting here, what we're very excited about, is for the first time, now you can create an automated test flow using real devices and browsers in the cloud with Accenture that includes in the testing practice, includes video quality results. And lastly, you can apply that practice both in pre-production as well as in production. So whether you're testing a new service or you're trying to validate that the service that's live now out there is working correctly, you can do that in your set of tools. Next slide, please. And lastly, of course, this is a natural marriage with Accenture's StormTest product. So StormTest Steven's going to talk about this, is an ideal integration with Perfecto, where we're able to drive devices and so forth, and StormTest is able to provide us clear visibility into the quality of the video during your testing cycles and in production. And so with that, I'd like to hand over to Steven, and thanks for listening so far.
Thank you, Amir. Yes, thank you very much for that. That was a nice handoff back to me and back to StormTest. So I would like now to talk a bit about about StormTest, because there may be many on this webinar who haven't come across the product. So just a bit of background on that, and then I will go into a bit more detail about quality and what we mean when we talk about quality, and then talk about the actual details of the solution that we're bringing to market in conjunction with Perfecto. So StormTest is a test automation product that's been developed by Accenture for the video industry. So we are very specifically focused on the video industry. And when we say the video industry, we're referring to those TV operators that all of us are familiar with, the ones that we are buying our video service from. The StormTest product has been around for going on 8 years now, and in that time, the industry itself has changed utterly. So when we started with this product, we were 100% of our focus was on set-top boxes. So the devices that all these operators were developing in order to deliver their video service to their customers. And for them, those devices had to be delivered in a way in which they could guarantee the quality of the video services, because people pay significant amounts of money per month for these video services, and they have naturally an expectation of quality. But the whole market has changed. In the last couple of years, we've seen the introduction of disruptors such as Netflix and Hulu and other providers who are really shaking things up for those traditional operators, and they've had to respond by creating new ways of delivering their services. And really what you have now is quite a complex and fragmented ecosystem for the delivery of video services. And StormTest is making its automation technology available to the industry so that it can deliver video services in a faster manner, because that's what the end user requires, but while also maintaining that quality that they have come to expect. So StormTest is an automation tool for accelerating the build and release cycles of our customers. But also, while also accelerating that, being able to automate the more complex scenarios, which didn't really exist in the past, those multi-screen scenarios that Amir touched on earlier. Those scenarios that in reality are the scenarios that are most of interest to our customers now, because if you think of your home right now and think of how it was 10 years ago, at one point there was a single TV, everybody sat around it and watched it. Now, most likely in the evening time, everybody has their own screen. Everybody has their own individual personalized experience, and they want to take that experience with them. So if they move from one room to another, if they move from one device to another, they have an expectation that their experience can move with them. They also have an expectation that they are not going to be impacted by somebody else within the household who are also watching a video service, or somebody else in the household who is using the broadband for instance, downloading a file. You have this hugely complex interaction within the home environment, which literally was not something that existed in time gone by. So StormTest is trying to address that complexity and enable our customers to automate those test scenarios to deliver on the quality that they need to deliver on. So we move on to the next slide there, Austin. So the sort of applications that StormTest has been used for, the most traditional one was CPE stack testing, CPE being customer premise equipment, so that's set-top boxes, games consoles, smart TVs, any of these devices in the home that are used for delivering video services. It also supports multi-site testing, where you have a distributed test team across multiple locations, and they all need to access the same test resources. Stress testing is an important one. It's really important that these devices that video operators roll out continue to work day after day, week after week, month after month. And the only way you can ensure that is by stressing them in the lab before you push the software out into the network. End-to-end validation. We have very complex video platforms these days, but ultimately the customer at the end of the line doesn't care, right? They need their video service and they want it to work, and it doesn't matter whether what's behind that is a complex cable network or a satellite delivering to a dish or an IP network. They just want it to work. And the best way of validating that is by looking at the experience at the client device and validating from that point of view. If you just click there, Austin. So the last two, the two that I think we want to focus on here, because the two that are directly related to mobile devices are multi-screen testing, which is testing that that home environment with multiple devices interacting, and OTT testing. For those who aren't familiar with the phrase OTT, it's over-the-top video, and to be clear on what that means, we're talking about video delivered over a network which the operator has no control over. And for those who aren't familiar with the video industry, that's an incredibly scary prospect for video operators. They've spent the last 100 years building out networks where they own every single piece of equipment and every single wire, and they know exactly what happens on that network. And now they are potentially delivering their precious video content over the internet, where they have no control over where the packets go. They have no control over the quality of every link. But their customers still have an expectation of quality. So that really is quite a scary prospect for video operators. On to the next slide. So StormTest is attempting to validate this multi-screen experience. And in order to do that, we have to be able to support every device that is used to consume video. So our traditional devices, set-top boxes, are clear. Games consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, connected smart TVs increasingly are a means to deliver video services. But the important ones, particularly for this webinar, are the mobile devices, so iOS, Android, and the apps on those devices. And no more, people have that expectation that their quality of experience, their QoE on these devices is going to be just as good as on all the other devices. So we need to be able to measure those metrics. We need to be able to rate the QoE of every release and ensure that it is delivering to the standard that has been set by the products that people have been used to by the set-top boxes and other devices. On to the next slide. So the big question is, what does quality mean? We've talked about quality, and really that is the topic of this webinar. So I would break quality down into three measurements. We have a subjective video quality measurement, and that is actually defined in an ITU standard. So if you are following that standard and you want to measure the quality of your video, that standard will tell you how many people you need to gather together in order to get a valid score. It will tell you the what room to put them in. The room should be soundproofed. It should be painted in neutral colors. It will tell you that they need to be a certain distance from the TV. It will tell you that they need to have normal eyesight, that they're not video experts. There's a whole range of things which you need to comply with in order to get you to a standardized set of people who then are given the opportunity to watch video clips and to rate them on a score of 1 to 5. 1 being very poor and 5 being excellent. And after you've done that with a representative body of people, you can get what they call a mean opinion score, and that is the industry standard for rating the quality of video. And it really is that simple, but also that complex, because you can imagine trying to organize that and getting all the people together and getting the video clips is quite a logistical challenge, and clearly not something that's automatable. Audio is the other side of the audio video quality measurement, and it's often the poor relation, but actually, in my opinion, it's almost as important. You can have perfect video quality. If you have poor audio quality, it ruins the experience for the customer. So there's a similar standard that talks about how people should be put in a soundproofed room and all the environmental situation that needs to be set up in order for them to rate the audio. The third aspect then of quality of experience is, particularly in this over-the-top environment, is how the app reacts when it's asked to do something. So when you ask it to play back a video, how long does it take for that video to start? If there's video buffering, how long is the buffering lasting for, and how often? If you have a menu on your screen which populates based on data from a backend, how long does that take? All of these things which can make a massive difference to the interaction and the engagement of a user. I think we all know that if we have to wait 2 or 3 seconds for video to start or longer, chances are we're just going to quit and go do something else. So it's really important that those metrics are taken into account when you're trying to figure out your overall quality of experience for your customer. And finally, the little comment there on the bottom right-hand corner there of that slide is an important one we'll come back to, that humans, this is their natural tendency, will quickly criticize quality when it drops, and when it returns to normal, it'll take them a while to forgive it. And that is an important thing, because ultimately what we need to do is move from what we have on this slide, which is subjective audio and video measurements, to an objective automatable algorithm. So if we go on to the next slide. This is what StormTest is doing here. So we have a video quality engine in the product, which is enabling you to generate those what would have been in the past subjective video quality scores, but to do it in an automated, deterministic manner, without any reference, and that's a key thing, right? A lot of video quality tools out there will require you to have a reference so that the algorithm can compare the video against what is expected. In this case, we are saying there is no reference. We do not know what the video should look like, but we still need to be able to give a score on that video. We still need to be able to produce an overall quality score. So the way we do that is that StormTest captures the audio and video from the source through an HDMI input connection, so a standard HDMI socket. Then every frame of video that comes in there is analyzed, and we generate a series of metrics on each frame of video, metrics such as the blockiness of that frame and how blurred it is and the contrast and things like that. And then all those measures are pooled together to produce higher level metrics, which then feed into an overall quality score. And a similar thing then will be done for audio, because we're also capturing the audio, and in the same way we are running that through an algorithm and creating a set of metrics which then feed up to an overall quality score for the audio. So if we go on to the next slide, we'll talk about some of the detail of those metrics. So there's three important metrics that actually come out of this that people would generally focus on. So frame quality is, for every single frame we can tell you what the quality of that frame is, and it's based on the lower level metrics that were detected before. Then there's a temporal frame quality, and that is where we come back to the statement we had earlier that humans are quick to criticize and slow to forgive. So temporal frame quality isn't just the quality of that frame, but it's the quality of that frame relative to the previous ones. So if you look at the graph on the right-hand side there, you would see the frame quality of video going up very quickly, but the temporal frame quality gradually returning to a high level, which is reflecting and modeling the real behavior of humans when they see video quality impairments. And then finally, the MOS, the mean opinion score. And in this case, we are integrating numerous quality scores over a 5-second period to give an overall mean opinion score. So that is the top level measurement, and that is intended to reflect what you would ultimately get if you were running a quality group according to the ITU standards. But in this case, instead of a 1 to 5 measurement, you're getting a 0 to 100. But it can still be divided into the same 5 bands from very poor quality, beneath 20, up to excellent quality, which is above 80. Okay, next slide, please. So what does that look like? So as an example of how that would be applied in real life, what we're looking at here is the same segment of video encoded at different bit rates and then played through the video quality engine. So we have the yellow, which is quite a low bit rate version of the video, up to the orange, I believe it is, which is 12 megabits per second. So that's very, very high bit rate video. And for the first 5 seconds, you get no results. And we're only looking at MOS score here because it needs to generate enough data in order to start reporting a MOS score. But once it does that, you're getting a MOS score for every single frame of video. So you can see that on this graph, the overall shape of the curve is quite similar. But the higher bit rate is consistently above 80, so it's consistently excellent quality video, whereas the low bit rate dips quite a bit, down as low as 50. Now the interesting thing here is that we're not, by using this technology, we're not saying your video must be above 80. We are, however, giving you a tool where you can decide for your particular circumstances, for your particular set of customers, what is the threshold of video quality that makes sense. So potentially in this case, the amount of bandwidth used by the video is far more important than the quality, and as long as the quality remains above 50, it's quite okay to have it at that level, in which case the low bitrate video is absolutely fine. Or maybe you're delivering a high quality service and you really must have your video quality above 80, and then you're looking at calibrating your system for a higher bitrate. So this is just one potential use case of video quality measurement in order to tune your video service to the appropriate and expectation of quality that your end customers would have. We'll go on to the next slide. So the actual solution in technical terms of what we're talking about here is a combination of StormTest on the left-hand side and Perfecto Mobile on the right-hand side. So Perfecto is the element that can do the interface with the mobile devices, the control of the app, so it can drive the app as it needs to, and it could do any sort of functional testing that's required. But when it comes to playing the video, what we're doing is mirroring the video to two different devices depending on the hardware in question. So Android devices are mirroring to a Chromecast and Apple devices mirroring to an Apple TV. And then both of these devices, the mirroring devices, are connected directly into StormTest, which enables StormTest then to do its AV capture and analysis. And at the top you have an automation test script which is controlling both. So both products have an API that's available to automation. So you can quite quickly put together a test script that will talk to Perfecto to drive the app and kick off the video playback, and then talk to StormTest to do the quality analysis part of it. So what we're offering here is an architecture and a solution based on the two products that are brought together to solve a problem in the market. We move on to just the next slide, and we'll quickly just talk about this is a summary, the benefits of video quality. So why would you do video quality? Well, it lets you assess the severity of your video quality problems, assuming you have problems, but also it can pick up on problems that maybe you didn't even know you had. And the important thing here, I think, is that using this technology, you can find out that you have problems before your customers do. So Amir mentioned, let's find the bugs early, right? That's really important. Effectively, you can determine what your consumer's quality of experience is. You can set thresholds according to the criteria that you determine, which maybe, as I say, could be that you're looking for very high quality, or maybe a lower quality is acceptable in your circumstances. And then you can compare, and that's really important, because as you're getting faster, as you're delivering services faster, you need to be able to know that you're getting better. There's no sense in delivering services faster if it turns out that the quality is degrading over time. So by having automated video quality metrics gathering, you can then do those comparisons across your builds, across your devices, potentially across your networks. So whatever way you're getting your video to your customers, you can compare them and ensure that for all your platforms, for all your devices, you're delivering to the level that you need to. Okay, now I would like to hand off to BT. So BT are a customer of both StormTest and Perfecto, and we've been working with them on measuring and delivering video quality in their apps. So if you could now, is it Sanket or Kedar? Not sure who's going to take this slide, but
this is Kedar here, Stephen.
Kedar, great.
Yeah, I can start off. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Amir. Quickly on from BT perspective, as a BT TV, we've implemented both StormTest and Perfecto for test automation, as Amir and Stephen highlighted already. So looking back at BTTV as a service provider, what are we looking for is to deliver IPTV streams, including video on demand, linear channels, as well as catch-up on demand seamlessly across any device, either at home or on the move. That was one of the key objectives for us. To achieve that goal, as a test lead, we were looking at various tools, how we can bring the test automation for verifying video delivery, speed and quality to any device, and we identified both StormTest and Perfecto. StormTest has been with us for quite some time. We have been validating the video quality for StormTest for all the set-top boxes till date, and Perfecto for mobile devices. Now, with the joint solution that has come up for video quality, is one of the proof of concept is being completed. As already both Amir and Stephen highlighted, the key challenges we face is the multiple device variants customers can have, the different network conditions in the home or on the move, and more devices coming like second screen, like Chromecast on Apple, Amazon Fire Stick, and other options coming on. Those are the key variants that are challenging us for more and more automation and faster validation of the video quality to verification is a key point. As aside highlighted already, to specify some of the key programs we delivered recently is the sports channels with huge amount of red button data where sports statistics can be delivered, and also we're looking at delivering more multi-camera views and other things as well. So using this new solution, we are confident that we'll be able to work with both the vendors and deliver, verify and validate the video quality and take right decisions in the architecture and design changes to support best service to our customer. With regard to implementation, Sanket can briefly highlight how we went about till now. Sanket.
Yeah, thanks, Kedar. So as like Kedar highlighted, we were focusing more on the functional test automation rather than automation of various video quality aspects, be it on the set-top boxes and on the mobile devices. So we are currently working closely with Perfecto and again StormTest Accenture to come up with a framework so that we can write our own scripts to measure the VQ aspects in isolation for the mobile devices, for the set-top boxes, and a framework that can be developed so that we can have the quality measurements and all the parameters analyzed for the mobile devices and for the set-top boxes as well. So for a customer within a home environment, you have the Chromecast, you have the AirPlays, you have mobile and handheld devices. So by automation architecture, by a single script, you can see what sort of video quality is being delivered to the customer while he is using mobile devices and the set-top boxes at the same time. Next slide, please.
Looks like our next
That's
slide.
it.
That's it, yeah. It's a QA bit.
Are you ready for that?
Yep.
All right, let me pull that up.
Video.
Okay. So what we're going to do now, actually, do we want to do the poll first, Austin, or do you want to do the demo?
Thank you for reminding me. Let's open poll before we play this. So the question is, do you have video services today? Give some time so everyone can answer. Looks like we're already getting a lot of answers to yes, I have an application with video services in it. Give it a little more time. That's still our top answer. All right, I'm going to close the poll. All right, so hopefully everyone can see results. Top answer, yes, I have an application with video services in it. Then no, and then it's tied between I'm looking at video conferencing services and I work for telco and I'm considering performance of video services. Any comments on this before we launch the video?
Yeah, so I think that's great that lots of people have video services. I do wonder, are we going to get to the point in the future where video becomes something that almost every app has? Just going back to something Amir said in his slides towards the start of the webinar, that video is really something that enables you to engage with your customers. So while certainly in StormTest we've dealt with obviously lots of video providers and video is their bread and butter, but I do see video becoming more important outside of the traditional video providers and increasingly something that people who would never have had anything to do with video in the past are now considering. I was recently talking to somebody in Deutsche Bahn, in the German train operator, and they're looking at putting a video service in their trains. So yeah, I wonder in a year or two will the percentage have gone even higher?
Great.
Okay, so so this what we're going to look at now is basically a video of to give you some real world views of what we're talking about when we say we're going to use Perfecto and StormTest to do measurement of video quality. So if you just play it there, Austin. So we're looking here at the Perfecto mobile interface, and it's a test which is simply navigating around an app on an iPhone. It's discovering video content, and once it's found the particular video clip that it wants to play, it's pressing play on it. Now at that point, as you can see, the screen on the iPhone has gone black, and that is because the video is now being mirrored across to, in this case, an Apple TV, and the output from that Apple TV is then being captured within this other server. So we're looking at I suppose an interactive application just for the purposes of demo, so you can see what's happening. Obviously, in an automation environment, you wouldn't see this UI, but this application is showing the video. So if you were watching it on the iPhone, you would be able to see it on the iPhone. But in this case, we're mirroring it into this application, and then you've got the bars on the just below the video, which are measuring both the video quality and the audio quality. And it's important to note that this is a continuous measurement, right, in real time. That video quality bar is going, it's being updated all the time. So if the video quality dropped, you would see that bar drop quite quickly, and the same for the audio quality. And you can use that then within your automation as a basis for carrying out other actions, as I mentioned before, whether that's comparing against previous runs or taking some sort of troubleshooting action to figure out why the video quality had dropped. And we're now just going to the log of the test run, so the test run is complete. And we're going to pull back the details of the video quality measurement. So there's a whole load of metrics that come back with the video quality, and the video has stopped there. But effectively, you get video measurements for every frame of video, which you can then average up to. So for that particular video clip, however long it was, a minute, you can average it up to get an overall MOS score for the video clip, and also the underlying metrics that we talked about before: frame quality, temporal frame quality, the blurriness, the jerkiness, the blockiness. There's a whole raft of metrics underneath it, which can then feed into your automation scripts and ensure that that you're focusing on the particular metrics that are important to you. Something I didn't mention earlier, and just since I'm talking about metrics, it's probably important to throw it in. The video quality engine is tuned for the particular encoding of the video. So you can tell it in advance that it's a MPEG-2 or H.264 or a HEVC video, and it will alter how it weights various different metrics in order to come up with your quality score. So it has that intelligence built into it, and that's an important factor when you're deciding on an overall quality score for your video. Okay, so I think at this point we can open up to questions.
Yes.
This is Amir. I have a quick question for you, Stephen.
Yeah, go ahead, Amir.
Yes. So, you know, we've seen in the video that the device screen goes dark and the video shows up on the video quality software. And, you know, as we know, many video streams are actually protected from a rights perspective. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the applicability of this solution across, you know, protected content and non-protected content.
Sure. Yeah. I can say a bit about that. Yeah, it's an incredibly complex. So technically, it's all quite simple, right? But legally, it's obviously quite complex. Oftentimes, video providers will purchase content and they'll have the right to show it on a particular screen size, or a particular. They'll have the right to enable casting. So for this particular application, because we are mirroring the video across to the Apple TV or the Chromecast, that does need to be possible from the app. In a small number of circumstances, the video providers will not have the content rights to do that, so the app may disable casting or mirroring, in which case we're not able to get the video. So it is an important thing to be aware of. It's not a technical limitation. It is actually literally just a flag in the app, and we would have cases where if you are, you know, able to get access to the code and do a specific development version of the app, you could, depending on the organization, you could disable some of that content protection just for test purposes. But it is something to be aware of, and it's something that could be checked very easily. So without having any automation software, if you have an iPad or an Android device and you have one of these mirroring devices, the Apple TV or the Chromecast, you can manually check whether you can mirror the video across. And if you can, and if you can see it on that other device, then this will work. This particular solution will work in that case.
So, in other words, Stephen, by default, the current solution due to the device mirroring, is it fair to say that this should work for most applications, even if they're right protected? And for some other applications, it's worth testing ahead of time, correct?
Yes. So, as I say, a lot of applications have protected video. It is protected, but it is also possible to mirror it to another device, and we can happily work in those circumstances. But if there's any doubts, it's something probably that should be checked and can be checked very quickly. Now, if the content is in the clear, something like YouTube, there's never any particular issue. But a lot of content would be protected. A lot of it is has some form of DRM attached to it.
All right, are we ready to open up questions from the audience? So we've got a ton of questions. So if we can't answer it during this webinar, we're running short on time. We will definitely get back to you by email. But let's start with this one from Danny. We use DRM of tokens given to assigned end user. How or can we test using DRM tokens on live streams?
So I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. But let me make a stab at it. If you're asking about whether you can test that your DRM is working correctly, and that your content, so let's say you have built an application and you want to be sure that actually it can be played, the video can be played where it's supposed to be played, and where it shouldn't be played, it can't. That is possible. I think it gets a little bit more complicated because it depends on the DRM provider. It depends on the particular scenarios where video is allowed and where it isn't allowed. It's probably something that we want to go into in sort of more face-to-face conversation, I think.
Great, thank you. Another question we have, does it support any other languages other than Python?
That's a good question. So Python, I've put Python in there because that's the language that StormTest supports. Perfecto Mobile is available. I know the API can be used from a number of different languages. Right now we're building out a platform agnostic API for StormTest, so we will in the fairly near future be able to support other languages as well.
Great. Another question we've got, how do I learn more about the video testing solution?
Well, so I would suggest that you start by going to, you can go to the Accenture StormTest website, which will give you quite a bit of detail about the StormTest product and about the video quality feature built into StormTest. We will be making available some more detailed information on the joined-up offering between Accenture and Perfecto. But that would be a great start, and on that website you'll find data sheets, you'll find brochures, some presentations as well, and also if you're interested in more information, you can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Great, thank you. Another question, does this system work if we are testing IP cameras? How do we control the image presented to the camera?
Testing IP cameras, that's a really, really interesting one. So when I mentioned StormTest before, I talked about it having an HDMI input, which means we can test anything that has an HDMI connection. So there actually is no reason why we can't work with HDMI-based cameras, and we already do. That's something we support. IP-based cameras, obviously a little bit different. Our next generation StormTest, which we're working on at the moment, is actually going to be based around IP streaming of video. So in the very near future, we will also be able to take the output of an IP camera as input into StormTest, and we'll be able to do the same testing on that as we would, or as we do currently on HDMI. So I would say watch this space, and we'll have a solution quite soon.
Great. I think we have time for one more question. Is it realistic to add video testing to the CI?
It's a good question, right? I believe it is. I think the important thing is that to really think about what it is you're testing, right? There's no point in generating lots of data if it's not measuring anything that you really care about. So I think the first thing to do is decide what are the metrics that are important for you and for your application, and then what are you going to measure them against. So you may be setting a threshold and in your automation, in your CI, looking that the video quality stays above that threshold, or you might be comparing against the previous run, and that will be more common where you have maybe you have standard video clips that you play through your releases, and every release is generating video quality scores, and you're comparing against previous runs to make sure that the quality is not being degraded by development. So it absolutely can work. It does take a little bit of thought to ensure that you're measuring something that's of value to your organization.
Great, well, thank you. Sorry to everyone that if we couldn't answer your question, but we'll definitely be reaching out soon. Remember, we'll also be sending the recording and slides to you within the next couple of days. I want to share, before everyone goes, a couple assets with you. We've got Factors magazine that was recently released, and I think you would find this a great asset for planning, building, releasing apps. It's like the go-to reference guide. And also, we have our very own Aram Kinsbrenner's book that was just released on Amazon. We're really proud of it. The Digital Quality Handbook, Guide for Achieving Continuous Quality in a DevOps Reality. Watch out for Perfecto releasing chapters of this, but for now, if you really want it, you can get it on Amazon. And last but not least, I will share in the follow-up email with all of you our next webinar, which will be all about DevOps and achieving four keys to achieving efficient DevOps. So watch out for that. Thank you for attending, and please fill out our survey. Bye now.